No more left.
Okay. I mean, you can say whatever you want, but
Yeah,
I'm sure
once.
some things people are gonna wanna not say. There will be a few, but
It's very short. There you go.
that's.
We didn't want it.
Okay.
How do you?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna run.
It's on Amazon, I think. Comfy, Mike? Not too bad over here. Yeah, why, I was checking, just everybody's in, you know. 6 o'clock, I'll call meeting to order. I will dispense with the pledge unless there's an objection to that, and we can say it. Christina, you have the roll?
Yeah.
And we need to approve this evening's agenda.
I move that we approve this evening's agenda.
Second. Nick got it.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. It's approved. Whole business, the PER.
And Max, Tim would like to cover A, B, and F because they have to get to Kelly yet tonight.
Okay,
If we can.
Let's do it that way.
Anything else that we pop up with.
A, B, and F.
So Caleb has been working tirelessly on
That looks like fun.
About halfway through printing, I'm sitting right around like a
Paper.
double sided, but
You love it. I was afraid you sent this like one.
So what we thought we'd do tonight is just distribute these to the grant, because we're still working on it, but at least before you the progress that's being made. And we're gonna kind of tie the lead service line stuff into this a little bit also.
Okay.
And so, you know, it's good timing, but this would give you an opportunity for those nights that you can't sleep. Just put that by your bed and take a couple of reads and maybe that'll help you. So then, you know, maybe we can go over this, I don't know if we do this at council, maybe the next work session.
Won't be until January. We don't have one in December. We have a council, but no work session. We typically don't have a work session in December because it's too so
Something
close to
like that.
Christmas.
Well, this isn't time sensitive, it's just, it would be nice to keep them moving, but.
Yep.
January probably be fine. I don't know if there's anything.
I did have a couple of points, just kind of bigger things I could just go through real quick. Like starting kind of on page 33, the first 30 pages or so, there's general background on the system. It's really not compared to the project. It just kind of talk about the existing conditions of the entire system and stuff like that. But once you get to page 33, it kind of goes through the different needs for the project. They're kind of split out into both wastewater and wastewater separately, and then there's a couple of different categories. First one is health, sanitation, and safety. And a lot of these things are regulations that agencies like the MPCA, Department of Health, 10 state standards require. There's a lot of different things in there where different parts of the system are not compliant with those particular standards, and that's justification for replacement or rehabilitation of those certain items. There's quite a bit on that, which is good. You know, you want efficiencies for funding purposes because if it's not broken, it's tough to get grant money to fix it, of course. And then the last thing I'll kind of touch on is if you go here. No, actually, page 38 kind of goes over the different alternatives we actually looked at. The first one is just optimizing the existing system as it is. Through very minimal research set and discussion, that's just not an option. Another one we looked into quite a bit was doing all the water improvements, and then instead of actually replacing all the sanitary lines for the collection system, you could line them, but with the condition that Blackducks are in based on a couple of different televising events that have happened. I think 2006, 2021, most of the system has been televised and they're not a candidate for that. The sewers are way too cracked up and there's roots protruding through the pipes and stuff like that. So it's just not feasible to do that. So what we're proposing is a comprehensive reconstruction of ultimately pretty much the entire system, minus a couple of streets that have been updated over the years. And that's kind of the last part of it. If you flip to page 43, that kind of goes through item by item, what would be redone in each different piece. There would be water distribution, sewer, yada, yada, yada. These are broken down a lot more in the cost estimates, but this is the general gist of the elements of each. And then the other piece is the exhibits that will show RD and stuff like that. Kind of, for you too, it's very helpful to see what streets we're talking about. So exhibits 1, 2, and 3 are just existing exhibits, and then 4, 5, and 6 are where the proposed work is, and anything in red on the sanitary one is where we're proposing doing sewer work, and then I guess it's also red on the water when you do water. A lot of them link up on the same streets. You can replacing sewer and water at the same time, which is really good because RD will pay for road restoration, for trench roof restoration. So you can get a fair bit of pavement around the grant loan splits as well.
Let's say that one, just that last part one more time.
So yeah, RD will pay for a trench restoration for underground work. They won't pay for streets specifically.
Okay.
But if you're doing underground work, they'll pay for the restoration, new asphalt.
And new
curb
asphalt,
gutter,
okay.
stuff
Kind of like
that.
the PFA did when we did Summit in Maine.
Yeah, PFA and RD,
Okay.
they both have their own width. I think they are a little bit different. I don't remember which one is actually a better, more bang for your buck width, but yeah, both of them do provide money for that.
So they would provide money for total street restoration.
No.
Over the trench, so,
Yeah.
Just over the trench.
yeah, so I think a general one that is used is about 15 feet.
Mhm.
So if you're 15 feet over your sewer trench and 15 feet over your water main trench, well, now you're up to maybe potentially 30 feet of the road that be covered under that. And a lot of the streets in town are 32 feet wide.
Yeah. I
So,
don't remember what the specifics are. RD used to be 10 foot, which was absolutely ridiculous.
Mhm.
But I thought they had gone up to 20. I could be wrong.
I think they did go up to 20,
Yeah.
but for a lot of the calculations, I know Larry recommended using 15, because sometimes they'll bark at 20 if you have like an 8-foot sewer versus like a 15-foot sewer, because your trench is gonna be much, much wider at the
Yeah.
top. And 15 is kind of a middle ground.
Yeah.
Because you get low.
So we end up breaking that out. At least we take a look at that to show you, what is, grant or, loan eligible versus what would be city requirements. So that stuff will all be laid out for you so you can see that.
Okay.
And would the restoration be 15 feet for sewer and 15 feet for water?
Correct.
Yeah, whichever, if both utilities are being replaced, you look at or singular.
Even if they're close to each other?
Yeah, and typically they're 10 foot apart, so, you're going to get.
Other side of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and typically your sewer is running down the middle of the street, so your manholes are on the crown.
Yeah.
And your water is typically after one side or another, so generally that entire side of curb and gutter would be looked at for replacement too, because it'd be almost impossible to dig the trench without.
Yeah.
ripping up the curb and
Yeah,
gutter.
because it's curves right
Yeah.
above it.
Mhm.
That's typically.
Yeah, there are non-typical things.
Okay, no, I'm just pointing it out, because I know there's a lot of stuff that's,
Well, then this is not unique to Blackduck. We have a lot of communities, and there's a lot of communities in Minnesota that, are under the same situation, where their infrastructure is aged and met its effective life and it's time for replacement. So, the unfortunate reality is it's a big expenditure, but then it sets up for a long time for the future.
May I ask a question on exhibit 5? You have in red proposed water main. And I see in a couple of sections of town, I guess the one most specific that I call out is the north of Cedar Avenue. That's been vacated.
Also, there's no right away there.
No,
Or an
it was given to Anderson Fabrics back in like 2014 that I recall.
That maybe for roofing or something like that.
And I wonder if that becomes an issue then? If that's a proposed,
Where's?
it's on the west side of 71, Caleb, it's, you look where,
It's gonna be north of,
just where Anderson Fabrics is,
Yeah, you got Oscar, Carl, Industrial.
yep. Just a little stub on the north side.
Okay, so I think it's called here.
Oh, it's Carl, I'm sorry, I didn't know why I said Cedar.
Okay, so that piece has been.
Yeah.
So just a service in there now.
Mm-hmm,
Well, I mean, that's just a tiny little stretch. We can just.
okay. I thought when I first looked at Exhibit 5 where it was circles around Morris and, around the school that it went further, but, cause I know the east side of Morris to the proposed 4th Street section, all that school stuff, that's all been vacated too, so never mind that thought.
Yeah, any comments that you have on that, anything like that, anybody, just make
Yeah.
sure, let us know before we, are looking at submittal, obviously.
well, then that would be the intent for the next meeting is if you come across things like that. you
Okay.
just talk about that.
Sure.
And then generally, RD as part of it will pay for, grant one portion of all service line replacements in the area too, out to like the right of way. Now, I know yours are all single ownership, but that's what they would cut a line at the curb stop too. So they wouldn't replace them to the house, but they would replace them to the edge of city right away.
What action items do you need from, the council at this point from the preliminary report?
I mean, I would just, if you have time, maybe recommend reading through it and noting anything that you would change or it's not in there and you'd like added,
Okay.
like that.
Mhm.
Do you want them
Cool.
to, collectively put them together, like I can put them together for the council and Mike and send them to you, or do you want them to be in one report for you the next time we meet about it?
I guess whichever's easiest, it'd probably be easier
Yeah.
if they're in one report versus going through seven of them, but.
Yeah, depending on how many comments there are, if there's not a lot of comments, we can talk about it, meeting, but if there's a fair amount of comments, then, yeah, throw it to us and we can take a look at it.
Yeah.
There will be a lot of appendixes that are referenced to that I don't have with me at the time, so most of them you don't really need to worry about, it's like sanitary permits and stuff like that. That are referenced in here, but they're not. It probably matter a whole lot for you guys when you're doing the review of it.
And some of the appendices give you the costs and things like that, but we'll review that when we go to the next meeting. We just have to make sure that we're comfortable with the numbers, because there has been a fair amount of time last year, so.
Okay.
Could you say that part about the curb stop again? You do replace the main and the curb stop.
Yeah, typically what they'll do is, go out to the edge of right away.
Mhm.
So, most streets are about 66 foot right away, so 33 foot off center.
Mhm.
So they replace out to that point, which is where your curb stops generally are, your cleanouts for your sanitary and stuff like that, so they're still on city right away, so city has access to them without an easement.
Mhm.
Then they hook into the homeowners. Search.
So they reconnect this homeowner's service line, whatever. New pipe to go from the curb stop to that line if the water main is in a different trench, so to speak.
They would replace all of them from the main to the curb stop, regardless of the
Yeah.
condition of the service, because they
I
probably.
mean, what if the water main is not where the old one is and there's 3 feet between that and the end of the homeowner's pipe? Curb stop. It's gonna be at exactly the same spot.
Maybe the house is like right next to it and it's only 3 foot.
No, I'm just thinking, where you dig up the old water line, you rip it up and you bury a new one.
Yeah.
Is that exactly in the same?
No, not necessarily.
So now you've got a homeowner's pipe which used to go to the old curb stop. But now it's 3 feet short of the new water main.
Oh, no, we would make sure that it was connected.
So you'd put a
It would be a line.
3 foot of pipe from the curb stop to the homeowner's line.
Yeah, the whole
Splice it or whatever.
street we ripped up the line from the house out to the street would be exposed, and then they would just go tap the main.
Yeah.
And run a line and connect right to that one.
To the old pipe.
It would be very, very similar to where it was before, with just a straight line. And then if there's situations where, you know, they're taking water down for an entire block, they set up a temporary water service and hook up everybody should not have water for any period of time.
So after we get the wastewater systems all patched up and stuff, then I noticed the proposed new irrigator, is that on land that is already owned by the city?
Not yet.
Okay.
That would be part of the project, to expand that irrigation field. Yeah.
Because obviously we're gonna get, we plan for more water. Are the current ponds sufficient? Or
I think, with some pretty generous calculations, we came up with like 116,000 gallons is like your average wet water flow. And they're designed for like 125,000, and that is using a growth factor to the population increase.
Okay.
And also reduction in what we call I&I, which is
Mhm.
inflow and infiltration.
That's what I was just gonna mention, if you get the pipes fixed and the stuff that's going in that shouldn't be in there, yeah, it
we won't
reduces
have
what's in the
near as
ponds.
much.
Correct. Well,
Yeah.
you have less, yeah.
You have less, it's very difficult to know exactly how much I&I
Correct.
goes into the system. It's not as simple as just taking the amount of water pumped and the amount of water pumped out there, because other things like flushing hydrants, fighting fires, stuff like that is unaccounted for. I mean, you guys talked about that last
Yep.
meeting. So we are assuming a 25% reduction just by replacing the buckets. And sealing that is much better and stuff like that.
Does the acquisition of that property for irrigation get factored into the project?
It's in the.
It is included.
It's, okay,
And more to come.
So we got homework.
Yeah.
So if a person owned a home in this area and you're changing all the piping and they're responsible from here to the main to their house, would that be a good time for them to utilize that time when it's dug up to replace their old pipe?
It depends on the material and the shape that it's in, you know, one thing that we're going to incorporate in here is we'll take a look at the lead service line inventory that was done to see. Because there are grant dollars available for replacing anything that's galvanized or lead or, you know, unknown, we have to try to figure out how many of those unknowns are actually ones that are in need of replacement, so. That's something we'll work into this report yet, is how does the lead service line play into that, because we would set that out as a separate item, so that, because there are already grant dollars set aside for replacing those lines, so we'd make sure that we would get that ear tagged and set aside for the city.
Okay.
But I don't know what the impact of that is, we'll go over that lead service line here in a little bit, so. But sometimes there is value in having them go out, there's not always value, because sometimes it seems like the contractors will give them elevated numbers to change the material, so sometimes they might be better off just giving somebody to come in with it. But that's, you know, something that would be independent of the project anyway, something that the homeowner would be responsible.
Right. That's what I was thinking, well, we
Yep.
got it dug up,
Yep.
just get somebody in there to switch the pipe out.
It depends on how close the entrance is of the house. And how
Yeah,
close the
yeah.
water is. Like some houses are set back and service lines come from the rear of the house. Major trenching for some.
Right.
So a month and a half to do some fun reading. Maybe 2 months.
Well, this is gonna be a Christmas story any day. isn't it?
Yeah.
Put Grayson to sleep in no time.
All right, well, then that kind of ties into the lead service line inventory a little bit too. Anything else on the VR?
No, I think that's all I got to know.
So the lead service line inventory was completed and sent into the Department of Health. Christina was able to get out the mailings. We had to do a notification that the inventory was done, and then we had to notify the folks that had galvanized pipe, lead pipe or unknown. And, you know, like you alluded to, Ron, is you had sent in photos and it was documented that you had non-lead in your house,
Mhm.
but you still got a letter. And the reason for that is like Caleb talked about, is the way the inventory worked is there's, the water main out to the right of way, that's considered the utility portion or the city's portion, even though Blackduck has a responsibility for the homeowner to go from the home to the main. They wanted it broken out so that whatever was in the right of way was considered the utility portion. Whatever was outside of the right of way was considered the customer portion. And so, in having to document whether or not there was lead materials out in the right of way, there was certain information that you had to have. You had to have record drawing plans, or it had to be after 1986 or some other criteria. And so, a lot of communities are finding that they didn't have information on that. So, the utility portion of it, there's a pretty significant amount that's marked as unknown. So there's going to be another round in the future, I think, from the Department of Health, with some sort of technical guidance and probably some additional grant to assist the city to see, you know, how do you get that number down? How do you document which ones are really needing replacement so that, you know, taxpayers' dollars are being spent wisely when it comes to replacing those. So I think you'll see something forthcoming on that. There were a total of 289 inventories in the city of Blackduck here. 192 of those were identified as not being lead, so that's good. There are 3 of them that were identified as having galvanized and needing replacement, and then there were 94 that were identified as unknown. And so 31 of those are based on customers. So, you know, either we were not able to get in their house, they didn't respond. So there's no documentation as to what those service materials are. And so then, you know, the rest would be, there were 83 of them that were documented as unknown out in the city right away. So that's the number that we need to try to bring down. And I think the Department of Health will have some, again, assistance coming forward.
And that would be on the homeowner
Well, all of this would be
to apply for the
grant,
dollars, or
all of this would be grant eligible. So again, the EPA has your take dollars and set aside, and we're administering that through the Department of Health in the state of Minnesota. And so the next thing that we would need to do is we would need to get these services on what's called the project priority list. And that's funded through PFA, Public Facilities. And so they would be the ones that you'd submit the application, and we would submit for the total of 97 service lines, because that's what we have is unknown. You know, we don't think that we're gonna have to have all 97 of them replaced, but what this does is it gets us on the list, it gets us money that's identified for the city and your tag, so that, you know, we don't know how long this money is gonna be around, so we need to make sure that we get in line. And what this will do is hopefully have the Department of Health identify that there's a lot of need out there, and we need something to ratchet that down and help communities identify really which ones need to be replaced. So, you know, they'll serve several purposes. I think it'll help spur the Department of Health to hopefully speed up that guidance and assist communities, and then it also gets us on the books for the needs that we're going to have. You know, we know for sure we got through. We just need to know how many more is it.
So did I understand you saying that our results are not uncommon
No.
across the state?
Yeah, I'm visiting with the Department of Health through the state of Minnesota. I think they said there was around 250,000 services that are marked unknown, and I think that's around 25% of the services in the state. So,
Wow.
it's
that's quite a number.
What are they doing to identify? Do they have a plan in place?
no,
Okay,
they don't have a plan. in place. So that's why when they see these 250,000 come through and it's going to cost, you know, billions of dollars, you're going to say, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah, now they're starting to circle back and look at the process and say, oh, well, maybe this process wasn't the right way to do it,
Correct.
maybe, and we need to find a better way to
okay.
get a correct inventory.
Yeah. And how do you work with those individuals, you know, that, because we were pretty fortunate in town here. We knocked on a lot of doors. We were very fortunate to get in, and document a lot of those, and a lot of them were copper and non-aluminum, so. It's just, what will be the follow up, how they try to get us into the other homes, but the other part is since the communities don't have the records, that's the biggest thing, so. Sort of digging up the street, how do we figure out what's out there, so
Right.
it'll be interesting to see what they come up with for the next phase.
And this isn't just Minnesota.
It's not just Minnesota. Right. So we'll come back with more information on that, but just kind of wanted to give you a little insight. The public facilities, grant applications aren't due until May, but we would propose is, let's just get it done and get on the list. And
Yeah,
be ahead of the game, so we're thinking January, February timeframe is probably when we work with you on that.
and when is the EPA's goal to have this covered state to state? Isn't there like a?
Well, they wanted it, I think, 10 years from when they implemented the lead copper service. Rule revisions.
Yeah,
Well, and there was a 2-year delay in getting that rolled out to the states, so. The goal is to try to have this done within 10 years. So that would be like 2032 or
that's-
2030.
I knew it was out there a ways, but I couldn't
Yeah.
remember because I didn't know if it started when they identified the issues in Michigan or not.
No, it was a trickle down effect, and
Sure.
it took a while to get out to the states, and even the Department of Health, when this rolled out, they were kind of scrambling to figure out how the program was going to work, and it took a long time, and so it took a long time to get the contracts, administered through the cities, because they contracted with us directly. This was done through a grant, so it didn't cost any cities in the state. Well, anyone's doing the inventory in the US, it didn't cost them anything, because it was through grant. So more to come on that, but, again, the goal is to get in line and get the application in for funding. We would put in the full 97, knowing that we're not going to have to replace all those, but again, it will help hopefully identify that there is a huge need and hopefully speed up the next steps for helping deal with it.
F is next.
And that is,
The punch list.
yeah, and so Mike, I understand that was done, right?
Yep, they came in and did it, they changed up a little bit on how they were gonna do it,
And
I
you're
actually
happy
like
with
the
that?
process that they used a
Yeah,
lot better. So we're just gonna wait and see what happens with it, I think it should be all right.
yeah, so it changed from, what we had, or what TNT had presented. They just told us they were gonna put some glue behind it, drill some holes in the material, put some glue behind it and stick it down. Well, that wouldn't work. Some of the stuff is bolting. So what we had talked about is if they could go cut the seams and take a little bit of material out so that you're stopping that bubbling effect, it would work more effectively. And I think that's essentially what they did.
Yep, they just trimmed kind of all around to give it some room for expansion and to float a little bit, so to speak. It should work, I think.
So then I think what we'll do is visit with Brent and have him wrap up that punch list and get that thing closed out.
We can leave the whole business.
A lot of the agenda.
Great. So then we would actually be on the library, unless we've got something else.
So I can pretty much sum C and D up together. I reached out to Tony Gustafson. I heard from him on November 7th. He wanted to get his subs into the library before deer season started. That didn't happen. So he's still working on that. He hopes to get in there after the 16th, which is this weekend. So I hope to hear from him before the holiday. That they at least got their subs into the library to review the phase changes that we want to complete, so a proposed dollar amount can actually be shared with the council. That also leads me to the action item I had for the Lions Duck restoration. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to talk to Tony. Cause he's been out of town working on other jobs. We've just been communicating through text, so I don't have anything on the dock restoration since our last meeting either. Unless
Okay.
somebody else came up with something to contribute to our focus on trying to do the restoration locally.
Do you have a committee for the duck?
We do have money for the dock,
No, a committee,
a committee,
that's, are you a committee?
no, not a single one.
Cause we created one for that corner, for doing kind of what we wanna do.
Good. Last time I talked to Misty, she thought you guys had put something together and she's gonna like get me together with them.
So maybe we should talk as far as what you folks are thinking.
Yep.
Cause I had heard maybe possibly a roof over the top of it.
The restoration of the statue is done, but we still haven't finished what we wanna do for future protection of the old duck.
Cause we have the old fire bell out of the old city hall,
Yeah,
and we kind of want to incorporate that into that area.
on this corner,
And
love for that to be outside.
It would be really nice to be a nice piece to display.
yeah, and then we want to list the names of all the retired firefighters since, what, 1901?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
So you guys actually, you have a committee that,
Yeah, we
And
created,
then so-
about 2 months ago, I think we put a committee together for that.
when you wanna get together with them.
Just have somebody reach out to me.
We'll see, I mean, next month can be busy with holidays and things like that, but, you know, maybe after the first of the year.
Sounds good. Thanks, Greg.
Okay, Christina?
I think someone with City Hall. Communicated from our last meeting with Beltrami Electric, they're proceeding with the application process. Started working with them together on the environmental report. They needed some partnership on that. I reached out to Tim and his team on a couple of items on the environmental report for this building that I'm gonna need to do a little bit more digging on so that I can get that back to Beltrami Electric. And also completed, they needed a business plan. Which I told them was kind of difficult. Most businesses have a profit and loss statement. Ours is kind of a break even, because whatever we make here from the DMV kind of lowers the levy, so our end result of our P&L is zero. But I did put together like a 3-year projection because the funding process for this application requires that of the business that City Hall is. So I sent that out to them last week, and we have another scheduled team meeting with Beltrami Electric on the 21st, I think, 21st or 22nd next week. So we're just plugging along on the application process. So it can be ready to send to USDA to see how it stacks up with the rest of what they receive.
Should we have a deadline on that, Christine?
I told Beltrami Electric it'd be really great to have it completed by year end. I don't know if that's going to happen for them or not. They have a meeting tonight as well with their board of directors to have their board approve the RLF program application to USDA. So if Bob and Mike and Ayla and myself get everything together, it's possible we can still have it done by the end of this year. The problem is the funding stream may or may not be there in Q1 or Q2 of 25. So our application, their application with our project will sit in the queue waiting to be reviewed and then hopefully approved upon so that that funding can be received by Beltrami Electric, and then subsequently we'll receive ours.
There's no other question? Lift station.
Lift station is done. We worked through the night, Tuesday night. Cold, wet, windy. It's all done and
Glad you picked a good day.
working beautifully. We've, I gotta. Once I do the numbers here, but I know that just looking at it for a couple of days, we've dropped our pumping significantly. So. It's doing what we wanted it to do, a lot less wear and tear on those pumps right now. Now we have them both back up and running and alternating the way that they need to be. It actually provides a better number for the water that we're putting out there. We don't have flow meters on that. What we do is basically we take calculations from the size of the pit itself, how long it takes to draw it down, and then we take that against the amount of minutes that we pump. So we're gonna have a far more accurate number of the water that's actually going out to the ponds now versus what we've had for quite some time. So that's a big plus. It was a pain, it didn't go real well, it was kind of a circus out there, but it's done.
Well, thank you.
Not a problem.
Did we get an idea of the final cost?
No, I don't,
It's, no.
I have nothing
Yeah.
yet.
They're gonna crunch the numbers and bill us.
Yeah, we incurred some extra costs, I can tell you that for sure, with the way everything went, so. We ended up actually, big thanks to Julesson coming out and being out there all night long with us with their back truck, and we had them running back and forth, dumping loads out at the pond and. Keeping us dry and keeping us from backing up and overflowing in the plant, so. That was a little bit of extra that wasn't really foreseen on our end, shouldn't have been, but it is what it is. We had to get the project taken care of. It's done.
Well, I'm glad they came out for you.
It was nice, Kelly, last minute, he's always kind of been that way for us. It was a last minute call to him and they made it happen.
Small towns.
Yep.
Onward and upward.
You guys.
Sales tax.
So I provided to you guys the draft of ordinance 2403. This will be the ordinance that will get hopefully approved in December to codify so we can kick off the sales tax for the Blackduck Library rehab. Documentation from our bond council basically says we have to have this in a notice to the Minnesota Department of Revenue by December 31st in order for the sales tax to take effect by April 1st. So I'm on a very short timeline. Attorneys are looking at this. I need to answer by Wednesday morning so that I can get posting notice in the paper with enough time to make the December 9th meeting. Does anybody have any questions about the language of the ordinance?
So did you get one of the four passed?
We got the library passed. One of 5 passed. Yeah.
I have a question from a citizen.
Okay,
Which is, how are local businesses gonna be made aware of this so they know to start charging this extra amount?
so just like any local sales tax, if this business owner is aware of what happened when the jail local sales tax was approved, every business was notified. It's required by the Department of Revenue, so we will notify everybody.
So the city.
Yep,
us-
Yeah.
us.
They shouldn't be throwing stuff from the city away.
And it'll be, I mean, we'll be mailing a letter to all businesses.
We'll be mailing a letter to all businesses, but once the Department of Revenue is notified, if you pay a sales tax as a business,
Mhm.
it's a notice on your monthly,
Yep.
every time you go to pay your sales tax, anything that's new is right there in your alerts. So if you're missing that, then you're not paying your sales tax on time. But yeah, there's,
And when you
There's-
don't pay it on time, I can tell you from experience,
yeah,
there's fines.
You
I
know.
from experience, Ron, when the jail tax got passed, the city received notifications for the golf course and for the liquor store. To be aware, on this date, you must have this additional percentage factored into your collection.
Mhm.
So it'll be the same way. That's curious that somebody's asking. Because you pay sales tax to the state, you collect it from your customers and you pay it to the state. So if you already knew that there was a 0.625% increase for the jail and how you got notified, then you as a business owner would know that that's how this one's gonna work too.
What is the proposed percent for the library?
It's a 0.5%.
0.5%,
So we'll be at 8,
2.5.
yeah. We'll be equal with Bemidji at that point.
And was that a specified amount that sunsets at a specific time then?
It's either $100,000 collected or 20 years, whichever's first, so
Got
it will not take long because the whole election with the 5 projects totaled almost,
I forget what it was.
it was almost, it was like $750,000 if we would have gotten all 5 projects approved,
Sure. And the library was just 100.
and the library was just 100.
Plus expenses, plus bond issuance.
Well, yes, plus issuance, yes, so the sales tax will pay for any of that bonding. Any other questions? About an 82%, 83%.
We were better than
We're better than the state,
the state average. So,
yeah. Even Terry got a vote from counselor.
Really?
Yep.
You typically do. Yeah.
Thank goodness it wasn't enough, or what?
Sorry, never got a chance to share that information with you. I thought Misty would have said something.
I'm not even a resident.
That's funny.
Most people get voted for.
That's funny.
Terry.
Hey, someone's trying to throw you a hand.
Say the word.
Enough hats.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome.
Safe travel, watching the deer out there.
Let's roll.
All right, Ron's gonna
Get your water, Caleb.
carry your water. Yeah.
So we'll be doing that at hopefully December 9th, Christina, well,
Sorry,
December 9th.
yes, I have that one and the cannabis one I'll talk about too. I wanna
And,
do
okay,
both of those readings, so we have everything adopted by the end of the year. The cannabis one, so I went to the county's, planning, public hearing last Wednesday night. Their planning commission heard, public comment regarding the draft of the county's cannabis regulations. And I felt like I kind of took over the meeting because I had a lot of questions and I had a lot of input. And I got a couple of clarifications. If, I thank the commission and the county for allowing us to delegate the regulations and the licensing to them. But in doing so, also got clarification that by doing so, we have to abide by the county's ordinance. So one of my biggest things I talked to them about was the buffers. I shared with them our concerns, how our partners at the school district were, saying a 200-foot buffer from the school was acceptable, so we could keep B1 and downtown open. And, how that conflicts in the language in the county's ordinance with the cities, because they were gonna adopt the 1,000-foot. And, after a lot of conversation and back and forth, they added language to their, to theirs under the buffer page is on page 8, section 3.1, minimum buffer requirements. The language that they added was this: the following minimum buffer requirements shall be met for all business types. For business applications in cities and or towns that delegate authority to Beltrami County, the minimum buffer requirements may be reduced with a vote of support at a city or town meeting, citing the specific business application and acceptable business buffer distance. The planning commission was fine with that. They accepted it after they heard comment, and it is moving to work session to the commissioners tomorrow night, which I will be tomorrow afternoon, which I'm gonna attend. If that gets approved tomorrow afternoon, it'll go to their public hearing in their December meeting for a reading and a vote. So I altered our ordinance, provided that to you guys for tonight's work session to support that language so that it meets both governments' requirements. I still kept in the cities the buffers of 500 to the daycares and for the daycares to a residential treatment facility, which there aren't any in town right now. And any attraction within a public park that is regularly used by minors, the playgrounds, the athletic fields. Those I kept at the max of 500 because we discussed all of those maps over the last 3 months. And the other thing I did after seeing Detroit Lakes' ordinance, which I shared with you guys as well, is that in section 1170. Oh boy, which one is this? 1170.3 subdivision 2, the zoning and land. I broke down each business type into specific zones of the city. I put cultivation in industrial and agricultural, cannabis manufacturing in industrial, hemp manufacturing in industrial, the highway business zone, the general business zone, wholesale in industrial, highway business and general business, cannabis retail in central business, highway business, and general business. So all three, B1, B2, and B3. All the changes I made since our last meeting.
No, it seems like it'll work for both parties.
I think that's nice. I think that's great. You did a great job.
Thank you.
I expected to be in there for 20 minutes. I was there for over an hour.
Well, thank you for doing it,
Yeah.
Christina.
Well, and they want to help out. They had stated, you know, obviously they're only going to be able, because of the population restriction, they're only going to be able to give out 4 licenses, right?
In the entire county.
Yes, because it's 12,500, right? What'd they say? Wilton was planning on regulating and licensing themselves. And I think that was, because they wanted to, have the buffers different and some other things that we were struggling with as well. Greg Gosvig thought they might rethink that now that this language has been put in their ordinance. So hopefully it'll be a better partnership for smaller cities. They still didn't have finality from Bemidji yet. So I don't know what Bemidji's doing. They've been pretty kicking the can down the hill for this. I don't know. So the county's plan is to have everything buttoned up by the end of, the year. I would like to read this one preceding the December 9th meeting as well. So what I'm looking for you guys tonight is just on these two ordinances, just give me the go ahead so I can get the notices out by Wednesday.
Let's do it.
Yep, okay. If something comes up at the work session tomorrow afternoon at the county and they don't accept the planning commission's recommendation from last Wednesday, I'll let you guys know. But I'm hoping that they accept those, that language from their staff and their board.
So regardless of whether a city does their own licensing or delegates it to the county, that doesn't affect the maximum.
It
issues.
does not, no.
So even if Wilton does their own thing, that doesn't mean we can now have 5 businesses,
That's
because they still have to fall under the law by the county.
The only thing that changes that total number, Ron, is if a city, a muni wants to be a cannabis business. And that states that in that ordinance.
So, I mean, I believe we're still the second largest town in Beltrami County, are we not?
We are, but you know, if Bemidji ends up with 4,
Hmm.
you know, because Brent Root still doesn't know how tribals are going to play into that total.
Hmm.
There has been very little communication from OCM about that.
Yeah, that's true.
But I did meet a gentleman, a gal by the name of Paul Parker. That says to say hi to Max, that lives up on Lumberjack, and her son is an application.
Oh, Jonathan?
Is that her son?
Yeah.
I don't remember the gal's first name, but she showed up last that night.
Joey.
Yes, Jolene. So she wants me to tell you hi. I don't know who she is, but
Yeah.
they put in an application. They went through the lottery process and they're down very close to potentially getting licensed.
Yeah, they grow,
And yes, they're doing the outdoor grow.
they've been growing for years.
Yeah, so. A lot of people haven't.
Well, I mean, legally.
Legally,
Yeah.
but for medicinal, for
medical.
medical, that's what I mean, yeah. So that's how those two ordinances are sitting.
Nice.
We'll talk to Jolene.
Okay. Has this generated any tax dollars coming back to like the city of Blackduck, for example? Since this is-
You know, I
It's just
question that, Terry, myself.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Sales tax, the only thing I can think of, if it's local, property tax is the only thing I can think of. I don't know. I mean,
Just
there-
curious.
on a county level, the partners at, with Brent Rood, they're very skeptical to know if anyone in the county is really gonna have the capital to put into it, to have, profit from it. Because a lot of the feedback he's gotten statewide is the amount of upfront costs you have to put into it takes years to come back, but
Sure.
in all fairness, most businesses need 5 to 7 years before you really can truly see a net profit from anything. This, on the other hand, I mean, I don't know, I mean, the people that it was referencing, they only wanted to have outdoor.
Correct.
I don't see how you can have,
Seasonal licenses.
yeah, I know, I don't see how you can actually have product all year round in northern Minnesota. Unless you do an indoor grow and do hydroponics. I mean, maybe I'm missing a part of it I don't understand, but I mean, if you're really gonna have enough volume. Right? You want this to talk about it?
Nah, I don't think. Does everybody got one?
It's in their packet.
Yeah.
I'm the only one with a hard copy though.
That's fine.
I'm done. Harry can talk for a while.
No, it's been a tough one. And nobody knows what to do because it's never been done and it's,
You know,
We're
the
gonna
cart
step on
and the
toes no
horse
matter
are
what.
going at the exact same pace,
yeah, and
side by side, not front to back.
And there's not gonna be a single person ready, you know, January 1, 2025. It's gonna be. It's set to go.
The state of Minnesota's not gonna be.
Then nothing's
Well-
gonna be ready, so it's,
I even utilized some of the knowledge I had gotten from Otter Tail County regarding the other municipalities inside of Otter Tail that were adopting the exact same ordinance as Otter Tail, and Fergus and those smaller towns, I just don't see how they can have 1,000-foot buffer from a school.
exactly.
I mean, unless they
Is
just,
that for manufacturing or actual usage?
that's for any of the businesses, Terry, any of the businesses, yep.
But I don't want it near my town.
Well, and I've gotten a lot of that feedback, but here's the deal, I mean, I went to
You
the
can't
school, I
say-
talked to the board members.
It is.
They know that downtown still has opportunity and they want to be able to make sure that we have commercial use of the property. So. Yeah, hopefully,
The
what
grow
we're doing
end
is
of
the
it, I
right
don't
thing.
understand, but the retail part of it.
Retail's nice.
All right,
Fire
fire trucks.
Fire trucks. So that was 2 months ago, I think we were in here and discussed. We wanted to look into and possible funding for a new truck. We have done that. I think in your packet, the cost of a new Pierce. $1,189,456. Takes 46 to 49 months to build that truck. Pre-discount of $118,226 if that truck is completely prepaid at the time of ordering it. So the numbers that I do know of, special equipment fund, $582,767. Current donation as of last month that would be available from the fire relief to the city of Blackduck. That's if last month would have been the end of the year, would have been $131,000. The current truck fund account is $30,237. Total all of those numbers, that would bring you to $744,000. Which is still on a pre-buy basis about $330,000 short. My question is, can the city bond for something on a pre-buy basis that hasn't been delivered?
That's a good question.
we can.
Because the new contract starts first of the year
Mhm.
for 10 years. That's your 300,000 shortfall.
Yeah, 25 is the first year for 10 years, and 30 a year without interest.
Without interest, correct?
Yep. Yep. So. The city can commit to the agreement and state that, yes, they will purchase this vehicle without all the funds and not obligate anything at this time, even though you wouldn't get it delivered for another 3.5 years. I confirmed that with Todd Hagan from Ellers. Can we bond for it prior to delivery, Terry? Is that what you're asking?
That's what I'm asking. The only reason I say that is
That 100.
you got 118,000 pre-discount.
Yeah, if you
If you
give
would,
them all the money up front,
if you would purchase it up front prior to the first of the year.
I will have to ask Todd. That I don't think was one of the questions you and I
It wasn't.
that morning. That's fine.
That tripped in my head as I was sitting in my pickup earlier looking at
Okay.
the numbers.
I don't know.
I mean, we all know we can't game on gaming funds.
Yeah,
So I mean, the relief, if you just look at the last 3 years, the donation for the last 3 years combined has been 420,000.
either way,
If you could bond on a pre-buy basis with no penalty for payback, the truck could actually in 2 years be paid off before you ever see it
mhm,
with gaming funds. And if that doesn't hold to fruition, you
Then
would-
the
you would-
contract
You
would
would stick
do
to the
it too.
contract.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep. Just make sure there's no payback penalty.
right. I will pose that question to Todd. And I will email everyone back. This ended October 30th.
I'm sure they would redo
I'm
that.
sure they would redo it.
Without going to the 1,202,000.
Yeah, then that would bring it to 1,071,000.
Yeah.
And like I said, the relief, I'm sure can kick in that extra 31,000, whatever it ends up being.
Mhm.
We still have 3 months to report yet before the end of the year
Mhm.
to bring that 131,000 up even higher.
But you think that their price would still be good after the 30th?
Oh,
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
offer price?
Yeah.
Because it says it's gonna go up to 1,202,000 after October 30th.
yeah, I think we still be okay. As far as I know, they have not done any increases.
Yep.
Yet.
Mhm.
And the increases have been 1% per quarter. So that brings it to about what, 40,000 a year in increases.
So. Devil's advocate,
Should
My-
they-
my only concern about putting all of our eggs in one basket is. We've helped. This special equipment fund that the relief has been able to provide for gambling has been a really great asset. And offset to the townships that are under the contract.
Yep.
Crystal ball here,
Which is where most of that money's coming from, is that fund.
yeah.
So it's not taxpayer money.
Yep, crystal ball here, something goes wrong. In the 3.5 years. And we can't all, saying we didn't prepay for it, right?
Mhm.
We're gonna need that money for anything else.
You would maybe be gambling on about a 12-month window. You would still have obviously your guaranteed truck fund would possibly be available, but you'd be gambling on a 12-month window until the relief would come in and gain the money again.
Okay.
I mean, the minimum that's been is 100,000.
Yeah.
So I mean, that goes quite a bit of ways. Like I said, you'd be gambling for about a 12-month period if you blew a motor up, for example, in a
Mhm.
truck or
Yep,
something like that.
Yeah, don't speak anything else into existence.
yeah. I mean, that's my biggest.
That would
fear
be
is-
over and above what you have in your repair budget for
Yeah,
the current next coming year.
right.
Yeah.
But the longer we wait to replace this piece of equipment,
So
the worse we're gonna be.
the plan is to replace a 2002, which would be 22 years old today. And that is to take pressure off a truck that our main truck is 1996, which is 28 years old today. So most of us have probably gone through 3 vehicles in a 22-year period. We're still driving the same one. It's 46 to 49 months to build it. So I mean, if you said yes today, you won't see it for 4 years. So you take in a 22-year-old truck that'll be 26, and a 20-year-old truck that'll be 32.
Sure.
And if you say, no, we're not gonna do this until all the funds are in place, you could be 8 years.
4 more years to it. Yeah.
So we're just thinking outside the box just a little bit. If we can get everybody maybe to give just a little bit
Mhm.
to make it happen. We could maybe speed the process up by maybe 4 years.
So when we order. So you order it in 25, is it technically then a 25 truck or is it a 29?
29.
Yeah.
Because it actually would have to meet EPA standards for the motor of 429.
Or 29?
And if you remember the tanker pumper that we did commit to in
Yeah.
22, we got delivered in 23, was it 23? I believe. 24,
Or
was it 24?
24.
Curious about the year, how they do that, so
Yeah,
it takes
that's-
so many years to do it.
Yeah. They actually had a number for the motor already for 2029. Based on
It's just a
based on-
16
based on EPA
digit
standards.
alphanumeric number, no big deal.
Yeah. Stamp it.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, no, it's something we have to do.
So, yeah, I mean, take a look at it. Christina's, can make some phone calls based on what I just recommended.
Right. I would request, have, I'll get in touch with Todd, hopefully tomorrow. You get in touch with Patrick and see if this can get updated.
Absolutely.
And I can put it on the council for consideration on December 9th. That'll be a good day. I'll do the TNT. We'll tell everybody their taxes are going up and then we're gonna buy a truck.
I'll give everybody all. Well,
Here you go.
one thing I will say on what I just proposed, the bulk of $1 million is coming from gambling
It's
funds.
coming from gambling.
That is not coming out of the taxpayer budget.
No,
That's huge.
yeah, it is huge.
And if all of this happens to come to fruition, the day the truck arrives, that should be put in the paper like that too.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And all you guys should be there, gals, at the time of that, just to show,
It's a.
if you're still on the council.
Sorry, here.
Ah,
Me and Nick will be here.
But I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, most of the time when you're dealing with this kind of stuff, you're dealing with taxpayer money, so it's kind of cool to be able to do something and not put it on the backs of
And
the taxpayer.
it came out of somebody else's pocket, not, yeah, and probably not even people that are here,
Majority.
right?
Quite a bit.
So
Yeah.
would this? Oh, I didn't want to.
Go ahead.
Would this be delivered from a specific dealership somewhere? Or would it come from the factory? Would somebody drive it here from the factory?
This would be a Pierce chassis and they're made in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be like a dealership in Minnesota that somebody would drive it over from the factory?
The McQueen and Fargo.
McQueen is the dealership for Pierce.
Over
and
here.
They're the representative out of the Twin Cities.
Okay,
A lot of times they would bring it to the Twin Cities and then we would retrieve it from there.
okay. So that was my question, because they have a letterhead here, but I noticed there's no physical address for this, any on their letter. So,
So that was what, 2 years ago that we required that
Mm-hmm,
our Pierce tender truck?
Yep.
And that was,
same concept.
yeah, we pulled that out of the Twin Cities. It was actually made in Florida.
so McQueen, it has a dealership in the Twin Cities.
They do, yeah, they cover like 4 or 5 states.
Yep, no, I was just looking for a physical address, like where this was coming from.
Yeah, but it's actually made in Wisconsin.
Guys feel good about that?
We'll see. I mean, there's some what ifs yet.
I only have 2-year terms, so.
Just a
My
lot of.
term's getting short too. I might not even see it delivered.
Can you go on the paper?
I could be
You'll be retired by then too.
Yeah, well, you gotta come out for the photo for that one.
Right. Yeah, the group I was here with a few months ago has gotten a little smaller. The chief is supposed to be here tonight for this.
That's all right.
It's the quick look for the post office. I have more time.
Thanks, Terry.
Nothing else?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking around.
You bet.
Okay, have a good night. Thanks. Okay,
All the fun stuff.
Yep, I got it up on the screen.
so. Went back. And plugged in. Some revenue scenarios into. Ugh, sorry, guys. The water and wastewater rate studies. I remember these from the last meeting. Okay, so on these studies, what you need to focus on is this number down here that says additional yearly income required after base rate revenue, 195. What that is what we need for volume on top of what we can get for our base rates, 235. And you take that times, top of my schedule, times the number of connections we have, times 12. So we go into how many residentials, how many commercial, multifamily units that we have, that we charge a base fee for every unit. Whether it's the trailer park or, you know, the 26 studio apartment building. That is what gives us this total base rate for the whole city. This is how much we need for volume. And this is what the calculation ends up being of what they think we should have, this spreadsheet think we should have for a volume. So our current volume right now is $6.85 for 1,000 gallons. I made this a little bit more simple for you guys so that you knew how much it was for a gallon. Right now, we're getting charged 0.00685 per gallon of water. You take that number that I told you, this additional, and plug it into the revenues, you get that number, which gets us a total of this. And on the expenses, we'll tell you if you have a gain or a loss based on what the expenses and operating is for that budget. You can carry the same calculation into the sewer if you want to. Sewer is fine. Wastewater has been fine. Its budget is not as high as water is because it's not paying for a water tower. The bond obligation on the water tower is big. And it will be for another 15, 10, something like that. Takes a while for that one to sunset. So in order for us to make up or not lose anything, we really do need to raise the rate. And a couple of years ago, we decided when we did raise rates that if we were going to raise water, we were going to raise wastewater. What that'll do for us on the wastewater budget is just give us more opportunities to depreciate more for future need, i.e. lift station. But also pay for bonding and the expenses on the water budget.
And PER report.
Well, and anything else that's coming down the pike. And we haven't, when we increased to 0.00685, it was 21 or 22. So it's been a couple of years since we've done it. when Mike and I talked and we did his budget, he's like, just make it to 10. And I'm like, okay, well, within reason here, we don't need to jump that quickly, but this should cover the expenses. Again, I remind you guys, we didn't do anything in the last, pardon me, couple of years because we were completing the public works, safety facility, and we knew that this unaccounted water number was kind of out of sorts. And we didn't know where everything was really gonna settle, so I think it's time for us to bring that up. And I'm looking for recommendations and guidance to start this in 25. Questions?
So we think it's been 2 years or 3 years since we raised it,
Yeah,
and this would take effect at 25, so it would certainly be 3 years since the prior raise. So
Yeah.
to have no
no
raise
increases.
in any product over a 3-year period in today's environment is unheard of, so.
Yeah, and I mean, if you
It's-
remember what,
Certainly justifiable to
I
bring
think
it up.
so, and it's not that much.
Less than $1, I mean, what is it? 80
Yeah.
cents or something?
What did Mike say the last time? You can buy a bottle of water for $2.99,
Kind of where you're at, yeah.
right?
The price at Lever's is $1.53 per gallon. And this is $7.59 for 1,000 gallons, so.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's time.
it's,
Well, when you talked about it last time, we were planning on doing it every couple of years anyway.
We were.
to
And
be,
now it's like,
I
it'll be
guess,
4 years later, pretty much.
yeah, you go too long and it's gonna be,
Then all of a sudden you have.
now you gotta make a big jump and,
You know,
Well, and it's important for you guys to remember that it doesn't hurt as much on volume. The base rates usually hurt more because everybody's uses varies. You know, not everybody uses 5,000 gallons or more a month. But an average, your volume,
By volume.
your volume, yeah. Yeah, and you got 2 people in your household.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
let's get his meter inspected, please.
I know that one's been fairly new since you moved in.
who takes those dirt baths?
Let's get a
You know?
calibrate.
You guys are funny.
I was like,
You poked into the neighbors taking showers over there?
put a wall in.
Well, then Max, if you don't mind, my next one was the rates and charges, the service fees
I had
resolution.
some, I had some questions on that one, so please
Okay.
go ahead.
But you guys are good with this?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll do
We-
water and wastewater at that. Okay, perfect. I will make those changes and make sure it gets, then this can get approved unless there's something else you guys want to change on this. Next meeting. You have questions? Go.
Can I just ask a quick question first? The rates and charges, the only yellow I see are the water. Is everything else as what it was last year?
That is correct. I haven't touched anything else.
Okay, so we're just duplicating what's currently there except for the water and the sewer.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
So the fee for bulk water is $9.90
Per thousand.
per thousand,
Mhm.
not just $10 for 1,000 gallons or. Just, to-
Mike and I went through a process to find this.
I'm just,
I couldn't tell you exactly off the top of my head how we did it, but I know there was some reference to what other cities were doing when we did it.
okay,
And we were using our current volume rate as a guide.
Okay.
There's only one business that bulks out of us and that's, Bradford, and that's it. If there are any entities in the summer that are pulling water out of our hydrants for service, like if the county has construction, I need to be notified so I can bill them accordingly. In the future, like Mike said at one meeting, putting meters on, the hydrants, so we know how much we're pulling from our fire trucks. What's, you know, if we can get a better idea of what we're pushing out of our hydrants when we flush them twice a year. Things like that will help that, percentage that's lost or unaccounted for, I should say. But we're not doing bulk water like most cities are doing it.
That one just kind of, yeah,
Okay.
my 990, it just,
Yep,
and
Cause you're gonna do this again in 2 years.
the homeowner is the one that owns the meter, correct?
yes, that's correct.
So installing the meter,
Mhm.
shouldn't that be?
You mean the
The
fee
labor
for
to
labor?
To replace a meter is $25.
Yep,
I don't know how long it takes to replace a meter.
it doesn't take long, so they have to purchase it, if the current meter that's in there is inoperable anymore, that cost gets sent down to the customer. If in most cases, it's installed by a plumber, not us.
Okay.
But I know Mike, he likes to make sure that it's done right, cause there's been some plumbers who put them on backwards. Or wrong, and it screwed up our radios too, so,
If they're hooked up backwards, do we have to write them a check?
yeah.
So, oh, is that, you guys would,
So the,
There can be ways that they're put on wrong, and most of them it's the radios that end up getting wrong.
okay,
Yeah.
So the plumber gets paid and then the city gets
The city,
the 25 bucks.
so we will order the meters, so we know what's going in
Yeah.
there. And when and then we order it and send that cost off to the customer, if it's needed. So any new construction that's gone in through town, we've ordered it and billed that, contractor or recipient. And charge sales tax on top of that too.
What is the approximate cost of the meter? Do you know?
It depends on, the type that's going in. I think a residential. Oh boy, I wanna say it's under $100. But don't quote me on that. That's a good Mike question. The last couple of ones that I billed out were for the trades building, and those were really bigger. So they were like 275, something like that. God, I charged a big one out. Is it Dollar General? Oof, that was a long time ago. I've seen some up in the 800 range. Yeah, but it depends on what its volume needs to be for.
you know, I'm seeing numbers anywhere from $100 up to 500.
Yeah,
And it looks like the ones that in my house is.
yeah. Any other questions on the, schedule of fees?
no, everything else is the same. I was just curious as to the, you know, if we were increasing other things, are we increasing those too? So,
When we worked on the cemetery budget and Pine Tree Park, Mike and I both, agreed we have no need to increase any revenue or any fees for what we're charging for camping or cemetery lots at this time. So we're not to touch those. The notary fee for $2 is working great here. Copying is working fine. There's a lot of other resources and places you can get copies at the library, at the CRC. I know that Fairwood does notaries too, as long as there's no conflict. So I think the resources that, the residents have and the people that are coming in pretty much get covered for what I can do in this office. And I mean, historically, I've been through a lot of the issues with like parking and public nuisance and those types of fees, and we're at the state level for that, of what an officer can charge for those violations, so I don't touch those anymore, and then permits are fine. I mean, I get good, participation with the fees that we charge, which is really, that compliance level is what I'm looking for.
And, Josh and Travis, seem to feel like the fines are where they should be.
Yeah,
Our
they,
little
I mean,
neck
and
of the woods.
if they're going to charge anybody that isn't, a state traffic stop charge, and it's just an admin charge that matches what the state would be, so we're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
And we'll put that on the December.
Not that, yeah, it's not like it's not that you're trying to, really sock it to them with a big,
We're not Bemidji.
you don't need a,
No, we're not.
just cause you got big tires on your truck.
My parking violations are stiff in Bemidji.
Well, they have parking notices too. We don't.
Right?
Yeah.
They run us through, that's a
Remember that
revenue
lady that
for
worked there?
them.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it worked there to park. Maybe.
You just keep your jury duty thing.
No, she just did a really good job at her job.
Yeah.
She had to do her job.
Okay,
For the fee for the wayside rest with electric, $10, that includes like when everybody's down there.
No, if
No.
there's a festival, if there's wood carvers and Beckwith's Bash, they don't get charged. No,
Just to bring people in.
correct. If somebody wants to reserve the wayside rest for an individual event, then we charge them the 35, what we do down at the park, the campground for the pavilions, we do the same charge.
with that. Anything else? Any other discussion on it?
So just to recap, the December meeting,
It is
Will be-
huge.
public hearing first so that I can read ordinances. Start of the regular meeting. Put that in timeout and then start the TNT and then bring back the regular meeting. So it'll be kind of busy.
Heck is that?
And I know that on my draft of tonight's work session, I had Garrett Hansen on for new business, and I removed him this afternoon because he couldn't attend. He's hoping to be here December 9th to ask for partnership with the city. He's got some land on the scenic that also has rail bank he needs conveyance of, so he has ownership access to the property he's acquiring.
Yeah. You probably find that job.
Yeah. Hopefully Garrett will get all his stuff done and it'll snow and he'll have to stop and then come. Cause he's tried like 3 times now.
Oh.
This is the only time I put him in the agenda, cause he's like, I will be there on November 18th. And then he's like, I'm still out of town. So I get it, everybody's using up the good weather,
Oh, yeah.
This nice long fall has been.
you know?
Yes.
All right, well,
Motion to adjourn.
all in favor?
I.
So moved.
Great, thank you, everyone. Good meeting.
Don't forget December 9th.
Big Christmas party.
Oh.